On today's episode of Behind the Wire, we're going to be talking about the Emerald City, Seattle. The once beautiful city, how it's fallen, and what the future looks like for the once great city. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Behind the Wire on Rebel Radio. I am your host, Robert Burwell. I'm also the president of Washington 3%. Today we're going to be talking about Seattle, how it was a once beautiful city and what it is now and what the future looks like. So we're going to start off, Seattle, back in the early 2000s, voted as, the most livable city in the United States. It was beautiful. They cleaned everything up. The waterfront was gorgeous. It was a great place to go. We would go down there at least once every summer, go down to the waterfront, see all the cool stuff, and make a day of it. It used to be a nice place to visit. Not anymore. Now it's a disaster. And, how did we get here? It all started out with Mayor Nichols. He was the first mayor to really let the city start going to crap. It's when the homeless epidemic first really started taking hold in Seattle was under his watch. And he created Nicholsville, right? He created these places where they could have their tent cities. And that was just the start of it. Under Mayor Jenny Durkin, it got worse. Homelessness ran rampant. She allowed CHAZ to happen. Okay. She allowed all the lawlessness. She defunded the police. During her reign, we lost like 1,000 police officers in Seattle because of soft on crime policies, cutting their budget, allowing the rampant homelessness to expand. And it all got worse. And it culminated in 2020 with CHAZ, the abandoning of the police station on Capitol Hill and letting the BLM protesters take over that section of Capitol Hill and run their own autonomous zone, which was a total shit show and ended up costing people their lives. Specifically, 16-year-old Antonio Mays Jr., who was killed in CHAZ under her watch because she refused to enforce the law and stop that. That's when it really started getting bad. Then along came the hapless Bruce Harrell. He ran as a more moderate Democrat. He was spineless. He let the homelessness just get worse. They quit moving the homeless camps out. They quit tearing them down. They just let them be wherever they wanted. We had homeless on the sidewalks, living in front of businesses, shooting up in their doorways. It just really became just a massive, massive mess under Bruce Harrell. Also under his reign was when Washington passed their stupid policy where they were not going to criminalize open air drug use as long as it was under a certain amount. Recently, that was changed, but now, again, it's going to be allowed, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So, basically, up until Bruce Harrell, things just got progressively worse and worse, allowing crime to go unpunished, not enough police to enforce laws, telling police not to enforce laws, liberal prosecutors who are not prosecuting people for things, and a whole soft on crime stance. I mean, it's just become a total mess. And because of this mess, in 2022, the vacancies, the business vacancies in Seattle really started to skyrocket in 2022 because of just what a mess the city had become over the years, and especially under Bruce Harrell, with all the homelessness and everything else. And the city was passing taxes on businesses, raising the property taxes and everything else. And it just, starting in 2022, the business vacancies, commercial vacancies in Seattle just skyrocketed. And the reasons these businesses gave for leaving, for all these vacancies to occur because of businesses leaving, is they blamed it on remote work, which was a COVID leftover, the high cost of operating in Seattle, and businesses relocating out of the city to escape the homelessness in front of their businesses and the rampant crime in Seattle, in downtown Seattle. That's the reason these businesses left, why there's so many vacancies. Vacancies right now are higher than 34%. 34% of commercial buildings that rent out space to businesses are vacant right now in Seattle. That vacancy rate is the highest in the Western United States and nearly all of the country. So, because of Seattle's policies, they're soft on crime, the homelessness, the lack of police to enforce the law, all the liberal policies, taxing businesses to death in Seattle. I mean, Washington state taxes are bad enough on businesses, but Seattle has their own taxes they put on businesses, and they basically just ran them out of the city. And now Seattle has the highest vacancy rate in the Western United States and nearly in the entire nation. All because of bad policies by radical leftist mayors that Seattle just loves to keep electing. So, according to John Scholes, the president and CEO of the Downtown Seattle Association, he blames city leaders over the last 5 years for making the city less than competitive. Small mom and pop sized businesses say the issue is growing taxes and expenses is why they're leaving. Those are the biggest issues. The city's taxing the businesses out of the city. And what happens to a city when you have a lot of vacancies, right? I mean, we already have a massive homelessness problem. We have a massive drug problem in Seattle. And now we have all these vacant businesses down there. What happens to those areas with the vacancies, right? The homelessness move in there. The homeless move in there. They're using drugs down there. It's right in downtown, and it just makes it so people don't want to go down there. I know I don't want to go down there. I used to love, like I said at the beginning, I used to love going down to Seattle. We used to go down there all the time. I used to take my kids down there. We used to go down there and spend the day just to see it and to do some things that you can't do in other parts of the state. And, but because of the mess down there, I mean, last time I went to downtown Seattle, the smell of urine and feces walking in the main tourist area of town was just overwhelming. There were tents everywhere. There were people, doing the zombie stand, from all the drugs they're on and everything else. And it's just a slum. It's terrible. Yeah, there's still nice neighborhoods in Seattle. But downtown, it's a shit show. It's terrible. And it's a crying shame. And now we have all these businesses that are vacant because nobody wants to go to Seattle and start a business. They're not gonna move their business to downtown Seattle. Tourists don't want to go to downtown Seattle. They see what a mess it is. When they go down there and they see what a mess it is they don't want to go back, and they tell their friends when they get home. Yeah, Seattle isn't what it used to be. It's a mess. So Seattle is just in a world of hurt right now. So what did the voters of Seattle do in their infinite wisdom this fall? They elected a new mayor to fix everything, supposedly. Who'd they pick? Well, I'm sure by now you all know. They picked Katie Wilson, a 43-year-old community organizer who has never held a job. Her parents still had to help her pay rent. Zero experience managing anything, let alone being an adult and taking care of her own life and having a real job and taking care of her own expenses. Now, the Seattle voters, in their infinite wisdom, have elected this person to run their city with a $9 billion budget. Seattle does have a $9 billion budget. But unfortunately, according to estimates, the budget deficit will grow to approximately $125 to $140 million by next year, 2027. Okay, so even though they have a $9 billion budget, they're still going to have a deficit. And this is the person they picked to fix Seattle. Now, to be honest, they didn't pick her to fix Seattle and to solve the problems of homelessness, rampant drug use, the business vacancies in the city, and all that stuff. They didn't hire her for that. They hired her because she promised socialist garbage and free stuff, right? That was what she ran on. She ran on free stuff for people, pushing the socialist agenda, pushing more soft on crime, more defunding of the police, all the stuff socialism stands for. That's what they elected her for. All the things that are killing the city, they elected this person to continue doing the same thing. And so far, she is delivering on those promises. So she's only been a mayor for, what, a month? And here's what she's done so far, because this is just going to work out great for the city. This is what she's done so far. She has ordered police to resume the failed policy of allowing open-air drug use, not prosecuting it, not arresting people for openly using drugs out in public in front of everybody. She has reinstated that policy because, that attracts tourists, going to downtown and, going to the shops and stuff downtown and seeing all these people, doing drugged out, shooting up, yelling and screaming like they do when they get high, or just standing against a wall hunched over like a zombie. That's really good for tourism in the city. But yeah, she has ordered police to reinstate that policy. Now, that's not the only thing she's done. Her latest move, she just said this week, is she wants, because of what's going on in Minnesota with ICE, they have these little groups on Signal that are in chats, and when somebody sees ICE going to an area to do some type of enforcement activity, right? People go on Signal and they put out the word, "Hey, ICE is here," right? Well, according to Katie Wilson, the intellectual giant that you have elected to run the city of Seattle, she said that they don't need to use a Signal app that could be hacked and be sending people to places where ICE isn't. They don't have to rely on that because she is going to, according to her, she is going to order the police to follow ICE agents and monitor them, record what they're doing. But not only that, she wants the police to report back to the city where ICE is and what they're doing, so that the city can share with these activist groups where ICE is, so they can go out there and protest against them and obstruct them in their operations, which, as we've seen in Minnesota, will cost lives because stupid things happen. People get stupid. They start fighting with the officers and they end up dead. She is proposing, she's saying she's ordering the police to not cooperate with ICE, but to follow them around and to send the information to her people so they can share it with these activist lunatics to go out there and obstruct federal agents. That's obstruction. I mean, bottom line, she is obstructing federal agents in the completion of their law enforcement duties. That's a federal crime. And not only that, she's ordering her police to be part of that. Do you really think this is going to save the city? Do you really think this is going to make Seattle better? No, it's not. Seattle's just going to become a mess. Because I know if I was a police officer in Seattle and I was told to do that, I'd walk. They're already down, what, over 1,000 officers down of what they need to have. And with this kind of a policy, I'm sure they're going to lose a lot more. Because there's a lot of cities that actually respect their police and let them enforce the law. In Seattle, you can't do that as a police officer in Seattle. Especially when you got some radical lunatic mayor like Katie Wilson in charge, who's ordering them to do things that are outside of their responsibilities as police officers. Their responsibilities are as police officers are to enforce the law. It's not to impede federal law enforcement, which is what they're going to be assisting in doing. They're going to be assisting the city and their activist minions in obstructing federal officers. She's putting them, not only putting them in a bad position by having them assist in obstruction, in breaking the law, but she's also putting them in a position of a bad moral position of not doing what they chose to do with their life, which is enforce the law. She wants them to help obstruct the enforcement of law. And I know that's not going to sit well with a lot of them. That's for sure. And they already have, like I said, they already have a shortage. They've already had a lot of great officers leave. And I imagine, the more she keeps ordering these people to do stuff, she's ordered police to not enforce the open air drug use policies. She's ordered the police to now shadow ICE agents and record them and report on them so that she can share that with protesters. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of cops leave Seattle. And if that happens, if they do, Seattle needs to hold on. Because you think that drug use and crime is rampant now. This lady keeps doing this with the police, having them do this kind of stuff. They're going to lose a lot more officers, and it's just going to go straight down the toilet. It's already down the toilet, but it'll just get worse. And again, this is her first month in office. So what does the future of Seattle look like? With this lunatic in charge, pushing all this radical stuff, it doesn't look good. But you know what? Like I always say, you get what you vote for. The residents of Seattle, which are probably one of the biggest enclaves of radical communist socialist lunatics in the United States, they got what they voted for. And so now all we can do, the rest of us here in Washington State, the only thing we can do is sit back, grab our popcorn, and watch the disaster that Seattle is going to become under the leadership, the so-called leadership of Miss Katie Wilson, the unemployed community activist whose mom had to pay her rent, now in charge of a $9 billion budget and a huge city. I mean, this is going to be like watching the Titanic go down. That's how big of a disaster this is going to be. But you know what? Seattle, that's what you voted for, and you get what you deserve. And I, for one, can't wait to see the disaster. With that, that's all I have on that subject. As usual, if you want know more about who we are, what we do, what we stand for, how we, expect our people to act in society and what our expectations are of them. You can go to our website at washington3percent.org. That's WA, the number 3percent.org. And we also have our charity, Boots on the Home Ground, which is to help veterans and communities in need in Washington State. You can go to our website, bothg.org, and you can, excuse me, you can also, while you're there, you see what we do there, but you can also make a donation. You do one-time donation or make a small monthly donation to help us help our communities. And that's about all I have to say on that. And I will see you next time on Behind the Wire. Good night.